in all the ways I believe to be most important. It was a society of abundance. It had a strong monastic tradition of scholarship and reflection. The monks were teachers as well as spiritual guides, and in every family in my village, at least one person could read. It was a society built around the importance of faith and devotion, the expectation of compassion for every living being, and a sense that everything and everyone was valuable. There was always enough time to talk, to listen, and to connect with one another. During the long winter months, the animals didn't require much more than daily milking, and the storms were howling outside, so we couldn't venture out. We spent hours eating and chatting. We often ate 6 small meals a day, accompanied by stories and jokes. Life seemed to overflow with laughter and with love. Even on the most basic level, I lacked for nothing. If I was hungry, all I had to do was cry and roll over, and my mother would come and feed me. If she was busy or in a bad mood, I would simply run off and find another adult who would welcome me as one of their own. It was this strong sensation of safety and security that was, I think, the defining characteristic of my childhood, and it has served me well throughout my whole life. Many of the Western people who come to see me nowadays are suffering so much on an emotional level. And for many of them, the issue seems to stem from their childhood. They tell me that they do not feel good enough. They do not feel lovable. When they were growing up, they were lonely or emotionally deprived. And they feel insecure and even unsafe as adults. This makes me wonder why so many people grow up in a world of material comfort and individual freedom, with educated and well-informed people around to take care of them, and yet feel a gnawing lack at their heart. I do not judge anyone, and I encourage those who come to me to let go of their often deep-seated tendencies to blame others, particularly their parents, for their own distress. Modern society makes it so hard for parents to give their children the emotional support and security they need. There are just so many pressures and conflicting demands on people these days. And on top of this, most parents did not receive proper parenting themselves. Tibetans greatly value their lineage and the received wisdom going back through the ages. But it strikes me that many parents in the West never inherited a sense of what it is like to be an emotionally integrated human being. To make matters worse, children are under so much pressure to perform academically and become successful. So their only option is to suppress their emotional pain and get onto the relentless treadmill to succeed. When, as adults, they start to meditate, their emotional pain resurfaces, as I later discovered when I began to guide and mentor Western students of Buddhism. My many conversations over the years have made me value even more my own experience of a world where adults and children were together so much, able to listen and pay attention to one another. We children were seen, heard, valued, and contained. We knew where we belonged. Beyond the realm of the extended family, beyond the social dimension, our whole community felt like it was knitted into a vast and interconnected ecosystem of all living beings and of the earth on which we depend. And of course, we also felt connected by our belief in the Buddhist teachings and the world of faith that came from them. Having a strong sense that we are valued by and connected to other human beings is vitally important for us, all of us, especially children. Even if we have grown up without it, it is never too late to recreate links with others in our own lives, families, and communities. Every relationship starts from an impulse to open ourselves to another. When we are generous with our attention and our care, empathy flows and compassion becomes possible. Many of the most important Buddhist ideas around joyous and compassionate living begin with the realization that none of us exist in isolation. Interconnectedness is essential to our being. Isolation is a delusion. I offer you this thought as a starting point for your voyage of positive change. Okay, so we're picking up from where we left off, which was page 14. And what would you like to say about this section of the book?
Well, it was interesting what he said. When in the winter time, when the wind was howling, they all sat round the fire, and they told stories. I'm sure famous stories would be about Milarepa, Shapka, Choje, Rinpoche, and Yeshe Sojo, and their own personal stories would have been add a lot of interest to them.
So you're saying they would have shared traditional stories that come out of the teachings?
Yes, yeah.
And the kids would have learned all the particular deities and the historical characters?
Yeah, they would all know about Milarepa and Shapka and those,
So they'd get very excited about wanting to have adventures like that.
Aye, they would do. Yes, they would. So I thought that was very, very interesting.
It's a good use of the time when they couldn't go out, wasn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Enjoyed each other's company.
Yeah, they did. They had good fun, and they enjoyed themselves, which is great. And I know when we was talking about the West, the problems they have, I discovered in the purer communities, it was very much happier lives, and they understood each other and they helped each other and they got on better than those who are surrounded with wealth.
So it's less materialistic if it's poorer.
Yeah, poorer, yes, materialistic, yeah.
So more spiritual.
Aye, more to that side, I'd say, yeah.
And more aware that we are all interdependent.
Interdependence, yes. I'm aware of that.
Because the wealthier a person is, maybe the more they think they can do it themselves, by themselves, without any other support.
Yeah, well, they have too many worries and too much busyness, know. That's what Kamapa said, Westerners have got too much busyness. That's how they don't get on very well with the Dharma practice. Because too much busyness.
Yes.
Yes.
So we said it before, we could say it again, that Lama Yeshe Rinpoche's childhood was very wonderful.
Oh, yes.
And very supportive for the kind of life and the role he was going to take further on in his life.
Yes, that left him in good shape for later life, yes. Having that good upbringing. And it didn't appear to suffer. They seemed to enjoy themselves, and there didn't appear to be any hardships involved. They just got used to the work they were doing, and they just got on with it,
Yes.
Yes.
So they were what you maybe would call a genuinely happy.
Oh yeah.
Happy within themselves
Yeah.
and able to support each other, like when he was hungry, anyone would feed him.
Yeah, that's right. Just walk out to any house and they'll be fine. And it'll be alright, yeah. Everybody, no matter what house they went to, were welcome, you know. It was very good. Yes.
It was interesting, wasn't it, that he said at least one member of every house in his village could read.
One member, huh?
At least.
Yeah, at least one member, yeah. Yeah, well, I think the working up in these remote areas and so much hard work to do with the cattle and growing their crops and their wheat and their barley. So they couldn't have time to go to school to learn to read, you know. So if they had that, nothing would get done. It had to be that way, you know.
Yes.
But of course things may have changed now, but that's the way it was then,
Yes.
you know.
But at least one person reading in every family means that every family had literacy.
I think so. Also, every family, I don't know. It's usually one of them was always in the monastery.
Yes, well, they'd be the ones learning to read, wouldn't they?
The ones that went to the monastery got taught, yes, and they come back to their families and tell them things, you know.
Yes.
They'll read to them, read stories to them, and what have you.
And encourage them to read as well.
Encourage them, yeah. They may even help to teach them too, you know.
He said they were teachers.
Yeah, the monks were teachers as well.
Yes.
They were teaching, and as well as spiritual guides, you know. So they probably led the pujas and so forth, and told some of the great Dharma stories. That would really get them all interested, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche really wants to help people overcome any challenges they had when they were young, or any situations where they might blame other people in order to transform their lives, and to not get stuck in one place but keep moving forward.
Yeah, well, MD reading that book will see what difficulty they have. See it's nothing to compare.
You think so?
It's nothing to compare. Yeah, I'll give them something to think about.
Yes, it puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
That's right. Put them in their place, as it were, in their own place, and they think more of what they're doing and what they're up to, you know.
Have more maybe gratitude and appreciation.
Yes.
For all the comforts that Westerners may have had on an outside level. Yeah. And also realize that we can become more satisfied and content.
Yeah.
And also we can transform things that were not so helpful for us in the past to then feel confident and capable and positive.
See, contentment, they're really content. Contentment is very important. And so it didn't matter if they did have much wealth, they were quite happy, you know. Wealth wasn't a big ideal to them, you know. They had what they wanted and they were content with that, you know. So that's quite good.
And he said that provided him with so much stability.
Yeah.
That serves him even today, serves him his entire life.
Yeah.
These wonderful building blocks for a very special life from the very beginning.
Yeah. So it must have been a big change coming to the Western world. We've got cars and aeroplanes and all that sort of stuff, you know.
That's probably coming next in the book, wouldn't you think?
Yes.
Because we do know that he left his village.
Yes, we do know. We do know his experience being on aeroplanes and on cars and all that stuff, yeah.
So we have all that to look forward to in the rest of the book.
Yes, that's right.
So this is the end of the very first chapter, and it was a very special time, certainly.
Oh, yes.
And it's recreated so beautifully in the story, and so vividly that it feels like we're sharing it with him, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it reminds us of things that we experienced that were similar, where we were connecting to nature and feeling support from our families.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's still remote places in Tibet where they're still living like that.
That's a good question to
Yeah,
ask.
yes. And they're at Lama Yeshe. That's my question.
Yes. So he'll be able to answer these questions for us as we formulate them and put them into this
Yeah,
recording.
yeah.
So thank you for a very beautiful beginning to the story. Would you like to ring the singing bowl to mark the chapter that is just concluded and issue in where we will pick up next time?
Yeah.